Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. It is fantastic to see you all here today. I hope that you've had a wonderful couple of weeks. And I know that there's several people in our community who are struggling with health issues and loss. And I just want to say that my heart goes out to everyone. I hope you're all taking care. Remember to be good to each other. This is our Sundae Brunch, and today our topic is mosaics. And I am excited to dive in, but first, just want to take a moment to say hello. I see Monica, Ray, Beverly, Gina, Kathleen, Jane, so many folks coming in, Mishka as well. Let's see, have I missed anyone? I think Dee commented early. Hello, Hannah. Hello, everybody. It is great to see you all here. I can't believe we're in February. This year is just blowing away. Hello, Sherry Kelly, Sue, Jeanette, Karen. I hope you're all doing great. Linda. Now, before we jump into, let's just set the stage for today. So today is all about mosaics, micromosaics, but we also have a giveaway to do. So there was a contest that was announced 2 weeks back where you were asked to participate in identifying the kite marks on this brooch, and we did receive 20 entries, so we will be giving away some prizes. Hello, Tink Tink, Coel, Rune, and many others. And I'm excited to say that all 20 entrants got the answer completely correct. So at the end, we will be announcing who the winner is. And I had promised that we were going to be giving away the Extra Scoop Club membership for 3 scoops, as well as a mug and a piece of gold jewelry. But I won't keep you in suspense as to what that gold jewelry is going to be. So really quickly, I'm going to give you a sneak peek as to what the lucky winner is going to take away for the kite mark contest. And it is this cornicello. It is a beautiful 10-karat gold pendant. It's actually quite large. And these cornicellos are meant to bring the wearer good luck. So this is the pendant, has some pretty good presence, and that is the piece of gold jewelry that has been a mystery. So stay tuned for that. Now, as always, we will give away a mug, one of these lovely Sundae Baubles exclusive mugs that you can only win on the brunch. So please enter hashtag win in all caps for a chance to win, and I will cover shipping. YouTube is not involved or sponsors this in any way. It is from me to you, and I will take care of the shipping. So please help each other to enter and make sure that it's in all caps. And without further ado, I do also want to say welcome to a couple of our new Extra Scoop Club members. So welcome Karen Michelle, welcome Carol, and welcome Monica. Thank you so much for joining. For those of you who aren't familiar with the program, it is really an extra access program. There's 2 ways to join. One is through the YouTube channel, and the other is on Patreon if you would like some extra identification support. This really does just help support fun little things that we do on the channel as well. And if you are interested, by all means, please do join, but there's never any pressure. We do some extra events like a monthly meetup. We did our first one last week, which was a lot of fun. It was great to get to see people on Zoom. And then we also do a very special exclusive members only live where we do a review of some of the members' pieces, and I do research on them and share what I find. So if that's interesting to you, please join. Now, let's get into the mosaics, micromosaics, and Pietra Dura. We're going to start by looking at these 4 pieces right here. There's a lot of confusion about the topic, and that's why I really want to dive into it. All of them are beautiful, all of them are very special in their own right, and they have their own place. So we're going to talk about mosaics, which can be made of glass. They can also be micromosaics, which are made of glass and sometimes a little bit of stone as well. We'll talk about Pietra Dura, which really is hard stone and more of an inlay, and usually they are seated on a black tile in the back or a black slate. And then micromosaics explicitly are very, very micro, tiny pieces of tile that are much smaller than the regular mosaics. So we're going to cover the differences and what made them popular. And I thought that would help to show you a quick picture as to what it is that we're looking at. Hello, Catherine. Hello, Sharon. Hello, everyone. Ray, Charlene, Rune, it is lovely to see you all. I know that we have so many people in different time zones too. So whether it's morning, noon, evening, night, whatever it is lovely to see you. Let's quickly walk through each of those first pieces that we shared so that I can tell you what they are. This first one is mosaic, and this one is glass that is also set in aventurine glass, also known as goldstone. And you can see the tiny, tiny little tiles that have been cut and that have been defined. Now, these curved tiles were developed a little bit later in the process, as you will find out why micromosaics became an art form very, very soon. Next, we have another glass mosaic, and this one again is designed to have floral elements in it, and this is in the Italian tradition. Pietra Dura, as we said, is a hard stone and more of an inlay. And in order to do these designs, first a design is sort of imagined, then the hard stone itself is selected, cut, and then inlaid in a technique that we will dive into in detail. And finally, the micromosaics. So the tiniest mosaics of all that are placed together in a way that it almost forms the same look as a painting. So really, really special pieces. Now, we should talk about the definitions so that we can talk a little bit about what makes up these pieces. So first up, we have tesserae, or tessera, which is the singular. Now, tessera is a small piece of stone, glass, ceramic, or another hard material that is cut in a cubical or another regular shape. And the plural is tesserae. So tessera is one, tesserae is many. Now, when these are made of glass, they are created of either opaque glass or they can be created of a vitreous glass. And essentially, it is the same process as to make morini, where they are stretched out, pulled into rods known as filati, and then they are cut and used usually with tweezers to kind of place into position. And that's what creates the really fine art form. Hello, Sue. Hello, everybody. Hello, Barb. It's great to see you. And Jan, Donna, Scavenger. So many people. Always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming. Now, that's one definition that we need to keep in mind. And we will talk about tesserae no matter if it's a micromosaic or a mosaic. When we talk about Pietra Dura, that is a little bit different. It is more of a panel. Now, let's get in really close. So in this glass example that's set in aventurine, you can see the shapes of those tesserae that have been built out. You can also see them in this Italian example, which is quite typical of the pieces that are more easily found today. Hello, Mia, great to see you. It is harder to see the little tiny tesserae in micromosaic. And I've put that there's stone in this because the outer rings, as you can probably see, are malachite and onyx that hold this beautiful piece together. And that onyx is going to form the base. And here is an example of a larger piece, a very, very large panel. And it is amazing what was done with these fantastic little micromosaic details. Now, one more thing that we should look at is the construction as well. And sometimes construction can help us to date things. So what I wanted to do is flip these all on their sides for you so that we can get in really close. And you're going to notice that the pieces or the examples that we have on the left protrude a little bit from the background. Now, things are handmade, and so this will not always be the case. Often they will be inlaid quite flat, but in this case, it's really lovely to see those examples. When they do protrude a lot, like the bottom example, they tend to break if they're worn or a lot or mishandled. So it is not uncommon to see little breaks and missing pieces. So do keep that in mind if you are shopping or in the market. Always look very, very closely. The other side, these ones are very finely finished. So with these techniques, usually so much attention to detail was put in to keep them very, very smooth. And this also helps ensure that they last for a very long time as well. So I wanted to make sure that you notice these variations. And of course, this is not a rule. You shouldn't discount something because it protrudes or doesn't. It is just something to keep in mind. And sometimes you even see a combination where things are finely inlaid and flat, and you may see a piece of like a coral flower that is added to embellish the very top. Now, micromosaics have been made for centuries. It is a painstaking process. First, you need the concept, preparations of the materials, execution, and also the artistic skills. So if you take a look at this example, this is the Last Supper micromosaic by Giacomo Raffaelli, and it is very, very large. This one was commissioned by Napoleon. Jewelry is made on a smaller scale, and we'll talk about why and who made those. But it is fascinating to see the amount of effort that sometimes went into making these pieces. Now, this art form is something that was brought about because the Vatican decided that they wanted to restore, well, more like reproduce paintings that were starting to deteriorate. And rather than just restoring them, they decided to recreate them using micromosaics. Here is an example of how the micromosaic is being put together. So you can see that the artist has some filati on tweezers, and they are placing them very, very carefully together. It takes so much thought, effort, a still hand. It's really quite amazing to see how this can be created. Now, again, the same process was done for jewelry, just using much smaller pieces. And in the large paintings that were done, and we'll take some examples, it is amazing how seamless they managed to shade all of the different areas that they almost become like a painting. Here is a smaller example. It is a goldfinch micromosaic, and this one is done by Giacomo Raffaelli around 1775. And this one is in the Victoria and Albert Museum. And again, it's another example where the pieces are placed extremely closely together, so closely that it really does resemble a painting. Now, Pietra Dura, our next topic, is also very, very special. It requires hard stone to create the look of the design, often done, florals. You could see animals as well. So in this example, we have a really beautiful panel. We've got flowers as well as leaves, and painstaking effort was put into place just in the stone selection before even beginning. And if you look at this, you can see the shading of the yellow in the rose. You can see the shading of the green in the leaves as well. And as we get in even closer, you can see the details on those leaves. So they even have that sort of jagged look, like a true leaf would. And that bud that has a little bit of yellow just beginning to pop out right in the center of the screen. So the details are really amazing. Now, often jasper and agates were used in order to create these pieces. Stone selection was paramount, and that was the first step in the process. Now, construction, there is a wonderful video on that was been created by the Victoria and Albert Museum, and I will link to it in this video. But here are a couple of quick photos to show you what the process is like. To begin with, stone selection happens, and then the artisan is going to slice off the pieces that they believe are best suited for the design. And then they're going to adhere that stone onto a slate back in order to make it strong. So they cut it so that it's a very thin layer of stone, and then it's put onto a backing. From there, they design exactly which stone is going to be used for different components. And in this case, they start to design out what the leaves are going to look like. And then they're going to begin to carve out these pieces. So they use a little bit of glue to adhere paper over top of the stone, and then they carve it out. And they do this using a thin wire as a saw. They will pierce a hole first, pass the wire through, and then essentially hand saw back and forth to remove the piece. And once they've gathered all of the pieces that belong for one element, like in a flower, these will be adhered together, often with a glue and chalk as well, to kind of fill in the gaps. From there, they're also going to prepare a slate backing. So in the example that we're going to look at right now, we've got a black background, and this is typical to the brooch that we looked at as well. And so once they've pierced and then hand sawed out all of the details of the flowers, they apply the individual flower elements or leaf elements that were initially carved out, and then cover that again with an adhesive layer, which sometimes includes chalk, and that's why it's white in this example. And ultimately, they will need to polish and grind it down in order to create the finished product. And this is an example of a panel that the VA Museum recreated. It's really quite beautiful, and I will link you to the video because it's only about 3 minutes long, and it's quite spectacular to see them do the work. So really a very, very special process. That's where Pietra Dura looks quite different from mosaics and micromosaics, because really we're talking about panels of stone instead of the glass rods. Hello, Doug. Hello, Lori. Hello, everybody. Hi, Thelma. Great to see you. I hope you're all doing well. Now, we need to cover on micromosaics through the ages. Why did this become an art form? As we briefly touched on, it was related to the Vatican's effort to preserve paintings, but rather than trying to preserve the paintings themselves, they wanted to recreate them using tiny, tiny little tiles, because it was thought that this was going to give them even more longevity. Now, one example of a truly stunning building that has many examples of micromosaic in it is the St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. The entire cupola has this beautiful dome that has nothing but micromosaic on the inside. So this is an incredible dome that you can go and see. And when you look from far, it appears to be painted, but truly it is all inlaid with glass. Now, in this building, there's over 10,000 square meters of mosaic that took years and years and years to produce. The Vatican Mosaic Workshop was founded in order to build out these wonderful paintings and also to build out the art for these buildings. Now, Giacomo Raffaelli, who was known as the father of micromosaic, determined that he could actually supplement his income by creating small-scale examples of these micromosaics and actually selling them privately, sometimes to tourists and sometimes to private patrons. And the first time that he did a selling exhibition was in 1775. And this coincides with when a lot of the grand tours were happening. So we'll talk about how some of these small pieces began to make their way around the world. But this school was founded in 1727, and that was when the Vatican really started to invest time and effort in order to create these paintings in micromosaics. They're really very special. There was also a school founded in Milan in 1806 as well. And this one was, let me try that again. It was founded earlier than that, but there was a private group that also founded their own school in Milan. And more people, artisans, were attracted to come and try their hand at this. We are going to look at another example. This is the Doves of Pliny, and this is a micromosaic that was also done by Raffaelli in around 1779. And he was inspired by floors that were found in antiquity, and this is what he was trying to recreate, which is really very, very special. Now, we did briefly look at this. It is the micromosaic of the Last Supper, commissioned by Napoleon, and it took over 8 years to complete. And the sad truth is that because it took so long to complete, Napoleon never actually did have a chance to take ownership of it. Instead, because it was only ready after he abdicated, it became the property of Francis II of Austria, and it now resides in a church in Vienna. And it is really such a special piece. Napoleon was a very, very big fan of architectural revivals and history. So it is no surprise that he commissioned a very special parure for his wife-to-be. This is the micromosaic parure created by Chomet for his second wife, the Empress Mary Louise, and it was created for her wedding to Napoleon. And it's really quite a special piece, and it showcases different places, under Napoleon's purview. Now, the grand tourist. This is a very, very important concept. The way that education was finished during the Georgian and Victorian period required travel. Unlike today, you couldn't just turn on a documentary, they didn't have YouTube, and even books were hard to come by with photography. So, especially in the beginning, in the 18th century, men would embark on these grand tours where they would travel through Europe with the goal to expose themselves to as much culture as possible. And they would travel through all cities, through Eastern Europe, they would go to the Baltic, they would go to Rome and Italy, and the goal was to see and experience, to learn languages, to see art, and on these travels, it became very, very common to pick up pieces that would show that you were now educated in the ways of the world. So this is one really interesting painting that we've got here. This is kind of like a coming of age. And here's another example where in the backgrounds, you can see different classical elements, elements of art, elements of painting. And you can really see that they're trying to show, I have become learned. Now, alongside with this comes the jewelry that they chose to take home. Sometimes they would buy simple panels and then they would have them set in jewelry. That was incredibly common. So we've got two micromosaic examples here, one that is an amphora and a ring on your right side, and then we have a brooch as well. Now, the jewelry of the Grand Tour that was most commonly purchased were either mosaics, Pietra Dura, cameos, intaglios, so that inverse carved look, and we'll cover this another day, and coral, because these were things that were not easily found. And so these were all the things that everyone wanted to bring home. Usually they would gift some to their loved ones, their very close loved ones, or maybe if they had a betrothed, but it was also to wear, to show everyone, I have returned and I have something to talk about, and I am now ready to take my place in the world. Thelma, thank you so much. You are so sweet. I really appreciate it. Now, this image, the Capitoline doves or the doves of Pliny, is one of the most commonly reproduced through the Grand Tour period. So there's a few examples of this that can be found. This one is from 1801 and from the VA Museum as well. But it is a very typical example, and that is because it really is a reproduction of that floor in a Roman temple. So it was very sought after. We've also got some later micromosaic brooches by another famed maker, Castellani. Now, Castellani was mentioned in many, many guidebooks when these gentlemen initially embarked on their tours, and in the later part of the I would say 70s and onward, women began to take these tours as well. They would want to stop by some of the jewelry shops, and Castellani was a name that was known, it was mentioned, and they were really producing all sorts of gold jewelry with embellishment of tiny little tiles like this. This is another example from Castellani. He really focused more on the architectural revival as well. So this one's from around 1880, and we've got a Medusa. And another example, this one is not a Medusa. Apologies, it is not labeled correctly. And finally, we also see pastoral scenes that were done a little bit later on. So really fantastic examples of jewelry that were done. It wasn't just about the religious iconography, although that is how it initially began. It really started to take its place in jewelry as well. Finally, in I would say late 1880s onward, it became very, very popular to also show your pets. This is actually a change. So around 1860s, this is when pets as a concept became more commonplace, where families would have perhaps a cat or a dog, and they start to appear in jewelry because pets were seen as more than just utilitarian. They didn't just help with the hunt or help protect the chicken coop. They were now part of the family. And so pets start to show up in jewelry, and you see animals like dogs. You actually see in some really early examples from the 1860s, even some children with birds, sometimes attached to a string as well. But the amount of effort that went into the early pieces was really very astounding. So you can see the beauty. Now, as an art form, because the work in the Vatican began to dry up in the later part of the 19th century, more and more people started to flood and try to create jewelry on the market. And that's where you see some lesser examples. So you can see, in contrast to that amazing dog, we have a little bit of a less detailed one. And this is from around the same time period. But unfortunately, it was that type of work that began to erode the marketplace. And so over time, there came to be less and less interest. Now, we do need to talk about the lovely examples of Italian micromosaic like this that was made really for that tourist trade. There's such a beauty to it because you can see that these tiny little strands of glass that have been chopped have been put together to form different pictures. Sometimes they even say words like Roma. What is hard to do is to date these pieces. So it's always important to take a look at the findings as well, because the Italian patterns in glass micromosaics have really carried through the ages. So here's a later example, probably around 1950s or so, stamped with Italy. These are older examples that we've got here. So really, it's important to take a look at the findings. Now, we're going to jump into some fantastic jewelry. This one is Pietra Dura. Almost qualifies as being micro, but this is hard stone that is inlaid, and it is not quite micro. Again, from the amazing collection of Rosalind and Arthur Gilbert that is with the Victoria and Albert Museum. You can see how the variation is selected. And this, again, was very, very popular from the 18th and 19th centuries, and everyone had to have a tiara, so it makes sense to bring one of these home. Now, when we think about Pietra Dura and that same time frame and what was popular, it was really floral panels. So here you have a Victorian example, likely from around 1880, that's got some simple leaves and some simple flowers. This isn't a very elaborate design, so it would have been less expensive than some of the more elaborate ones. Here's an example that again has the bud as well as leaves and all of the shading that's in it as well. So really beautiful pieces. And we have other locations that famously made examples specific to their town. So we've got Carlsbad and Karlovy Vary, which is a spa town in Czechia that has a lot of Pietra Dura jewelry that can be identified to them specifically because they actually painstakingly put their names into the pieces, as you can see. And it's really important to take a quick look at how beautiful that spa town is, because it really is quite something. Let's take a quick look back. So again, with the finishing techniques, these are very, very smooth on top. And the idea is that you would be telling people that you've gone on to this wonderful spa town, which is so, so popular. So on these grand tours, they would spend sometimes as much as 2 years when they would go. And so it was a very, very long trek. They would be writing back to the people at home to tell them about all the culture they were exposed to, how people lived. And sometimes they would even end up taking several months in one location or spending several months at an institution like a school to learn languages and to learn other subjects too. So it's a fascinating part of history that doesn't happen in the same way today. Now there's reading week and people go off, sometimes a gap year, and they go and want to travel and backpack around Europe. But in this case, it was really intentionally about education and pleasure and sort of preparing oneself to take their seat in life, take over the family business and really participate, marry, settle down, have have children. Yes, if you ever have a chance, there is an incredible Vatican Museum workshop that is still operating, and they will do tours. They actually have many examples that you can purchase to take with you, and their work is second to none. You will find, if you're ever shopping for pieces, that a lot of people will try to say that some of the Italian micromosaic is Vatican workshop. If it is not marked as such, take it with a grain of salt. Just always be a little bit careful. Now, we are going to play a little bit of an identification game, and why this matters is just because it is very helpful to know what the terminology is when you're looking at pieces, because often they're mislabeled. And at the end of the day, if it's beautiful and you're happy with the price you're paying, it really doesn't matter. But sometimes it's nice to know, and it's always better to be accurate than not. I did see a question about how early the safety pin finding can be. And so the safety pins in their general form have been around for a very, very long time, centuries. But when we're talking about the sort of round hinge, if it is a sort of factory-made round hinge, that's going to be a really strong hint that it is going to be from the 20th century. So that is one way to sort of keep that in mind. If it is just a wire that is simply bent, that can be earlier. I would say as early as about 1890 or so. So hopefully that helps. All right, I hope you're all ready, because we are going to play the identification game. It's not a hard one today. We are going to start with this beautiful pendant, and the question is it Pietra Dura or Mosaic? A or B? Thank you so much, Doug. I really appreciate your kind words. All right, so let's get those answers in, and I see A, and I am going to tell you that you are absolutely correct if you said A. This is a hard stone Pietra Dura, and that is exactly what Pietra Dura means. And you can make out some of the stones. So we've got jasper and we've got a little bit of malachite in there. So the jasper is the red and the yellow, and the green is the malachite. And this one is tricky. You don't necessarily see a lot of Pietra Dura that is set in white. Usually you see it more in black, like our previous examples with the flowers. All right, good job on the first one. We are now moving into the second. Is this a micromosaic? Now remember what we talked about. Micromosaics will be tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces that are put together so closely that they almost form a painting. And they do generally have themes that are either going to be like the Vatican, or they may have pastoral theme. They may have an animal theme too. So is this a micromosaic? I'm not trying to trick you. I did zoom in really, really close on it, because it is. So this actually is an example of a micromosaic, and I love that you are all very conservative on your answers. We will do a little bit of a tour, and we will take a look at some listings together later on gem.app just to see what people are calling micromosaics versus not, and you will see why this one really truly is a micromosaic. All right. Here's another one. Is this Pietra Dura or a mosaic? As we learned, Pietra Dura is hard stone. Mosaic can be glass. We've got some beautiful goldstone or aventurine glass in the background of this one. I do love the look of goldstone with the tesserae. I find it has such an attractive look to it because the goldstone, especially in these Victorian pieces, really, really shimmers. And we've got a lot of B's coming in, and you would be absolutely correct. Good job, everybody. It is indeed mosaic. And pieces like this generally date from around 1880 or so, when goldstone was being used in Victorian jewelry. And the goldstone has a very different look to it than the stuff that is being made today, because it's a little bit more speckly and uneven, and it just tends to shimmer when light hits it in a different way. No, Thelma! Oh, it is beautiful. I'm sure it's in a good home. All right, here is another example. Hello, Wanda. The question is this Pietra Dura? A for yes or B for no? And it is stunning. I love the shading on this piece. We've got the green leaves all curled, little blue flowers and white flowers, lily of the valleys in there too. Those Victorians absolutely loved the language of the flowers and florography, which is a topic for a different discussion. And I see lots of A's coming in, and you are all fantastic and correct. This is indeed Pietra Dura. It is a lovely, lovely panel. All right. And this one, is it a micromosaic or a mosaic? These are your choices for this final glass brooch in our quiz. And it is a beautiful example, Italian, I would say. Remember, micromosaic needs to be tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces, where there may be some larger ones in this one. And I see our answers coming in. And the answer is indeed B. So this is a fantastic mosaic, very typical in that Italian style where you've got sort of blues and yellows and greens, the floral elements in the center, and a little bit of a almost wave-like design on the outside. So thank you all for playing along. Congratulations on them. I do want to share one more piece with you, which is a absolutely stunning example of Pietra Dura, and it is one that one of our Extra Scoop Club members is offering up from her personal collection. So I'm going to share it. This is the incredible butterfly or moth, and it is all in hardstone, and it is really quite beautiful. So you can see the details from the antenna to the legs. The way that the stones were selected, again, is exactly what the best artisans do, where they make sure that they're choosing patterns that are absolutely stunning. And here from the side, you can see that black backing, as well as the inlay from the top. And there's just a little bit of a mark from the artisan on the back. And so this panel, she is making available to all of you in case you are interested in adding it to your collection. And it's available for $125 USD, including shipping. It's quite large at 4.5 by 5.6 centimeters. So if you are, in the need of a piece for art, want to frame it, or would like to make it into a large brooch, or even, the lid of a trinket box, it would be a great choice. So grab a screenshot if you're interested. This is from Hannah, and it is a really, really gorgeous piece and a good opportunity. And I will say that this is an open invitation to folks. If there's something that you would like to offer to the community and want to talk to me about, please don't hesitate to email me at sundaebaubles@gmail.com, and we can definitely talk about it. All right. Now, without further ado, we are going to do our giveaways. And you're probably all in suspense, wondering, okay, let's talk about the kite marks on this brooch. Let's get the right answers. I told you that if you entered, you were right, but we're still going to go through it. So this is a Scottish brooch, or I should say Scottish style, because it is in fact not made in Scotland. It is a beauty, and we've got our kite mark in the back that is on the blade. We zoomed in real close and we interpreted the numbers for everybody. And I tried to, help you out by making sure everybody could see these clearly. So we have the Roman 1, 6, S, G, and a 4. And when we look at our kite marks, this is going to break down into the class, day, year, month, and bundle. And we're going to do our identification together. So there are 2 sets, as we talked about last week, of kite marks. And based on where the year and month is, which are the letters, it is the easiest way to determine what is it going to be. And that is what we're going to jump in and do. It is part of the series too. So together, we're going to take a quick look at each of these. The class is a 1, and that is metal, which makes complete sense. The day is a 6. Our year is an S, which takes us to 1875. And finally, our month is a G, and our G is February. And if we put that all together, what do we get? We get a metal item that was registered on the 6th day of February in 1875. And the bundle is part of bundle 4. Here we have it. Now, congratulations to everybody that entered. You got it absolutely right. And now I'm going to share with you what this refers to. So when we look up on the registry, this was a design that was registered by James Fenton from Birmingham. And James Fenton is actually a maker that has an example in the Royal Collection and a collection at the VA Museum as well. So I thought it would be fun to grab an example from his other work, and here we have it. He was a typical Birmingham maker. They have a nice little write-up on him as well, which I will share with you. But he was following the pebble jewelry style that was popularized by Queen Victoria. And so we're able to see all of that. Here's the details from the catalog at the museum on the back of this guy. And we're able to actually see all the details on the brooch and the write-up from the museum as well. So I thought that was kind of cool. But it's time to get to the draw. So I am going to pull up the wheel of names that I have populated with everyone who has entered. Give me just one moment to share my screen and get this logged back in. I had to reboot my computer literally 2 minutes before the Sundae Brunch started today. And there was definitely a moment where I was like, am I going to be able to pull everything up in time? It was a little nerve-wracking, but that's okay. Let's do it. We are going to share the screen for the kite mark contest, and then we're going to do some other giveaways too. So I see you all getting your hashtag all caps win in, which is perfect. All right. So this is for the 3-scoop extra scoop club membership, an annual one, plus a piece of gold jewelry, which is the cornicello, which is a lucky horn, and a mug. Let's go. Good luck, everybody. And Shitty Shows is the winner. Congratulations to Shitty Shows. I wonder if I'm going to get in trouble for saying that. Interesting name. Jewelry Jam, that is a great question. Does the museum normally write on the back of pieces? So I was fascinated by this, excuse me, and I was recently at the Met Museum, and they also had different writing in like red on the bottom of their ceramics as well. And I was trying to find a docent to tell me, is this a common thing to do? Because I found it personally very alarming. And I don't know the answer yet, but I'm going to find out and I will share it with you all. Because I personally don't think that anything should be taped, written, stuck at all on artifacts. I do understand the importance of cataloging, but it makes me nervous. So great question. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do right now is I am going to give away some memberships on YouTube. Please bear with me as I pull up, and I hope this isn't going to make a whole bunch of noise. It might. The live, there we go, so that I can do the giveaway. And this is open to everybody that's here. Keep chatting. The more you chat, I have a feeling that you actually have a better likelihood of receiving a gifted membership, but we are going to gift 5 memberships right now just for being here. And then we're going to do our giveaway as well. So congratulations to all of those who receive a gifted membership. We do this now that YouTube has allowed this program to take place on a weekly basis when we do these as well. And we also have to do our other giveaway for this mug. And I won't make you wait any longer. We're going to give away the mug, and then we are going to jump into gem.app and just take a look at what shows up when we look for micromosaic, mosaic, and Pietra Dura. We'll talk a little bit about how to choose a good piece of mosaic. All right, let's do it. I am going to share my screen. We've got 37 entrants. You are not too late. If you would like to enter, you still can. Hashtag win, all caps WIN. And here we go. Let's share screen to the giveaway tool on StreamYard. All right, we are up to 38. Good luck, everybody. I'm going to count this down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I see we are now up to 40, so I'm going to give it 5 more seconds. We're up to 41. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And now we're going to do the draw. Good luck, everyone. Let's see what happens. Who will be the winner? And congratulations to Deborah M. You made it in, and you are our winner today. Amazing. You'll be getting this fantastic mug shipped directly to you, courtesy of me, and it is a doozy. Tell me in the chat, should we add more variety, like different mugs, different things as well, and let the winner choose what they might like? I'd love your feedback. Let me know. I'm thinking about maybe mixing it up this year. Why not? All right. Now, I am going to now share my screen and go to gem.app so that we can take a look at some examples. So let's begin. I will share. You did win. You know what? I am going to check what it costs to ship directly because I do the drop shipping and it's a little heavy. So let's see, because it might be even easier to send it directly to you than to your parents' machine, but we'll figure it out. Aw, thank you, SLO Happy Vintage or Slow Happy Vintage. Okay, let's do it. We are going to jump into gem.app. And I started by typing Pietra Dura. I'm going to make sure that I'm sharing my screen because I've done this before where I have not. All right. Okay, so first let's talk about condition. It is always important to buy things in the best condition one can buy. Now, this beauty at 2,426 Canadian dollars is not necessarily in reach for everyone. It is wonderful. But, and you can see why, like there's beautiful shading in it. It's well made. It looks like it's gold. It says it's gold, but that is on the steep side. We've got this example, which is beautiful, but it has a fair bit of cracking in it. So personally, when I'm buying jewelry, a little damage is sometimes okay, but something like this, I begin to worry about the stability of the item. So this is probably not a piece, and it's a ring, so it's been knocked around, that I would go for. But something like this, which is still a reasonable price in rolled gold for $94, is a little bit more reasonable. And I'm going to see if I can find a beauty that stands out. As you can see, the pricing with everything is always a little bit all over the place. This one on Ruby Lane is not a bad value at all. Now it does appear to possibly have a little bit of damage, so we're going to go in and take a look at it so that we can really see it. So it is, again, that always popular butterfly or moth motif. And really this was tied to the psyche. Ruby Lane has recently changed their layout, which makes it a little tricky. So it's an 800 silver, but what I'm trying to see is if there's any damage by the head, and I'm finding it a little hard to get in close enough. Now it looks like it may just be a little bit of 3D relief. And again, you can see how the colors were chosen. just going to accept this policy on Ruby Lane so that we can see things clearly. But for $125, that is not a bad value from Bay City Antiques. Now, let's go back and see what else we can find for a good value. This is not too bad in terms of workmanship, and for $101 Canadian, also from Bay City Antiques, could be a contender. It is a very turn of the century style framing on it as well. Okay, I will come back and check comments in case I've missed anything. Yeah, as is very common when you see, the floral elements, they do tend to go for a little bit more money. Here's that example from Carlsbad or Coloviveri. This one's on Ruby Lane and can be yours. It is also from Bay City Antiques for $80. If you have ever been to the spa town, or if this holds any kind of special meeting, or perhaps you collect examples of Grand Tour jewelry, this is a pretty cool one to have. And let's keep going. So again, condition, condition, condition. This is a very inexpensive one, but you can see some of the damage and some of the spaces. So there is like a missing bud here. Available from Hilton's Creations on Etsy. Some of you may have the skills even to do repairs if you do any kind of stonework or inlay. But this is what you want to look for to make sure that you know what it is that you're buying before you buy. And when it comes to micromosaics, it is equally important to be looking at the details because they can be a little bit fragile. Glass is obviously less durable than stone as well. So these are some examples. My goodness, it seems like they've gone up even further in price in the last, year. Micromosaics are very expensive. Now, mosaics, on the other hand, are much more attainable. So I am going to switch up our search to mosaics. All right. Let's begin here. This is quite a nice example. I like it a lot. It's got some of those almost vitreous white glass pieces as well as some floral pieces. It's available on eBay, coming from Canada. So this one's going to be from the 20th century, but still beautiful, and I think it's an early example. The eBay seller is Mima's Vintage Stuff. Only a few sales at 58, but 100% positive, and they are accepting offers as well. So let's zoom in really close. This is what I like to do. I really use my zoom feature so that I can get in there and see if there's anything that is missing. And this one seems to be quite complete. I don't notice any of the white detail from the outer borders missing, and then the green leaves all appear to be intact. I love the tiny little flowers that are included with the larger ones too. So this has passed my is anything missing test. Now, as we get in real close, you can see possibly a little bit of verdigris on the outside of the brooch that could be cleaned up, but it's worth noting because it's there. And we'll look at the back. And the back is, again, just a very simple hinge. It is round. So I'm going to say, again, probably around the turn of the 20th century. So maybe 1910 or so. It is beautiful. All right, I am going to head back to gem.app and see what else we can find. Now here are some very Italian looking ones from Sands Retro Shop. You've got the Venezia with the boat, as well as a guitar, combination of two for the mandolin and gondola. You can see that it appears all pieces are intact, but I think we can find one that's an even better value. Let's keep going. Here is another example of flower work. Because, again, when they pulled the glass, sometimes they would create almost like the little millefiores that they could then use in their work. So this is a beautiful, beautiful example. Again, we've got that exact same finding, which is in line. And this is from Gem Treasure Hunter on Etsy, 65 Canadian. I do want to get in even closer though, so that we can take a look to see if there's anything that is damaged. Because this is where, on the borders especially, spacing can become an issue. So you've got to get in super close and see. And there may be nothing missing, but a little bit of space here. So it's important to make sure that it's going to be intact and going to last. This one's not too bad. All right. We are going to keep looking. And I'm going to quickly pop back and see if I've missed any comments. Ray, what hasn't gone up in price? I could not agree more. Here, I'm just going to remove this for a minute. Let's see, what else? Are pieces made with mother of pearl in a similar style to Pietra Dura? So yes, Hannah, they're actually, they can be made with enamel, they can be made with mother of pearl or shell or other materials as well. And they are referred to as mosaics usually. You can see them inlaid as well. Sometimes you see them with examples of beetles and scarabs from around the 1880s or so, where they're trying to get that opalescent look to it. So yes, very, very good question. Jewelry Jam. If you type Pietra Dura in search, a lot of items come up. Yes, yes. And I agree. You should do Pietra Dura. You should definitely misspell and typo things. If you speak another language, type that as well. Very, very good tip. All right. I'm going to add gem.app back to the stage. See, these are not what I would necessarily expect as mosaics. We've got a collection here of 4 unmounted mosaics. If you are in the market, perhaps to try to make something on your own, this is available on Ruby Lane. And I want to see the back, so this is why I'm flipping. So they say they're unmounted, but they are actually in at least a metal pan, which will help. The seller on this one is Patricia Funt Antiques, and it is $85 USD. I'm going to zoom in so that we can see. They do appear to be in good condition. And again, this is some of that more translucent looking glass, which you can sometimes find. So let's see what she has to say about these. She believes they date from 1930s to 1940s, all in good condition, and the backing is brass. So if you are looking for pieces or components for a project, Patricia Funt Antiques maybe could be an option for you. Now here are 2 small ones, but at $36 Canadian, that is not a bad deal. So we are going to check it out. I like a good deal. 27 USD or best offer. Let's take a look at them one at a time and zoom in. So these are tightly packed tesserae, which I like to see because it means that there's less likelihood for movement. And this looks like some sort of lidded container with a little brooch on the side. Let's zoom in. This one has a sticker that says made in Italy. Looks like a base metal. Want to take a look at the front of that one too. Again, fairly tightly packed. But the colors are just a little bit muddier on this. So this one is from Gabby is Gabbing _6 on eBay. Not a lot of sales, only 48, but 100% positive review and not a terrible price. So, not too bad. Now, what I love is sometimes when I'm on eBay and they suggest similar sponsored things, sometimes it's worth keeping your eye out on these. So I think I just missed sharing the last thing with you. So this is what we were looking at. Gabby is Gabbing. This one appears to be some sort of pot. And I like the tightly packed tesseraes here. This one is a little bit muddier, but still pretty good and accepting offers. So not too bad value. I think this one could stand to be cleaned possibly as well. And then what I was saying was the sponsored listings at the bottom. Sometimes when you're on eBay are a good place to look because sometimes you can see an interesting item or two that are proposed that seems to be a decent pricing. So we're going to scroll down and see if anything stands out. And this bracelet for $50, that is quite an unusually inexpensive mosaic bracelet, or excuse me, mosaic bracelet. You don't normally see them for less than $100 or so on the marketplaces. So let's just scroll through the pictures and see what the state is. It's got a fair bit of wear to it, so you might want to clean it up. We may be able to do better. Let's keep going. Let's take a look at this one. Okay, another suggested one. This one from Diamonds in the Rough. I like, again, that the tesserae are tightly packed and it seems to be in pretty good condition. They say it is unsigned, but I do like the variety. So this one is a buy it now at $50 from Diamonds in the Rough, diamonds with a Z _ in the rough. And it has a lot going for it. So it's got some little tiny star tesserae. Now do note there's one that appears to have almost rolled over. It's right in the center of the screen where my magnifier is right now. You may want to take a look at that and make sure that it's not going to fall out, but it's a fairly beautiful bracelet. All right, let's scroll down and see what else they want to suggest to us today to see if there's anything good. This is a similar one from Nisha Trifat. And here's a 10-piece collection. All right. Let's take a look at this one and see. So this one has 15 bids already, but I like a bundle deal. I don't know about you all. So let's jump in. We've got a fairly nice looking mosaic. I hope to see the back too. I'd say this one's probably from around mid 20th century. And then we've got these beauties and a bracelet and another bracelet. Oh, now the cameo is missing a couple little pieces. And there's a trinket box as well that appears to be fairly well made. Let's keep looking. So this looks like a pretty good lot for $54. There's 10 items. While there's a couple pieces that maybe are missing from a few of them, I think that if you were a collector, this would be a good way to add to your collection. And if you were a reseller, you could likely make a bit of money on this too. So not bad. This one is from Saduka V351. So that is SADUCAVI 351 in case you are interested. And I think we are going to go back to the chat and see if I have missed any comments. Hello, everybody. Hi, Linda. Hello, Barbara M. All right. I don't think that I have missed anything. We are going to try Jewelry Jam's tip. We are going to go back and try Pietra Dura and see what pops up for fun. So let us return to gem.app. And Pietra Dura has indeed yielded some beautiful pieces. Oh, does anyone recognize this? It is that same motif from our Carlsbad, and this one is actually a great price. So we're going to look at it. Available from chicteak.shop, a seller with over 1,000 sales and 99.3% positive. We can see the front and the back. So we're going to dive right in. Now I'm going to start by zooming in. It looks like all of these stone elements are well packed together, which is good. Doesn't look like anything's loose or prone to coming out. On the back, I love that you can see the slate backing. It's one of my favorite things. You've got your nice old sea catch, and we've got our old hinge to it as well. So definitely looks totally appropriate for the Carlsbad or Karlovy Vary spa town. Also accepting best offer, 79 USD, chictique.shop. That is a pretty good find. I'm going to return to gem.app and see what else we can find. Now, this is where obviously beauty is subjective and in the eye of the beholder, but given the choice between this beautiful pendant and this beautiful brooch, where one is $300 less than the other, this is why it's really important to shop around. And depending on your budget, sometimes you can find things for what you're willing to pay. Now, there may be a small break in the stem of this, so we're going to take a look at the listing. This is from Darling Jewels on Etsy, and I'm going to use the bigger photo and zoom in. And this is something to look for because it's really, really common in Pietra Dura jewelry, is that these small stem-like pieces sometimes do have breaks, and they are very prone to falling out. So just be careful and take a look at that to see if there's any sort of risk. And for me, I think I would probably take a pass on this one. Now we will take a look at the quality of the other one just to show the difference, because you can see how it's even more seamlessly built. We're going to share this tab. So this is how to tell quality in Pietra Dura. You can see that it's extremely flat and all of the details are really, really strongly inlaid. And the sort of variations in the leaves are a little bit more subtle as well. So it was chosen with a little bit more care. This is a really good example. That's why they're asking for the moon and 1 star. But if you're in the market, you're in the market. So I'm going to keep going. Let's find something that is a better value. Let's spell it correctly and see what we can find. Now, let's see. You can set filters on gem.app. So why don't we do that? Why don't we set our filter to no more than 100 and let's say 130 Canadian dollars, because that's about $100 US, and see what we come up with. This is a beautiful trinket box, and this one's available from Pink Treehouse Etsy. But we are going to look for some jewelry and see what we can find. Now this is a flower brooch from Adjani Designs on Etsy. We will go there next and take a look. So when the seller turns it to the side, we can see that there appears to be some sort of clumsy repairs in there. So I don't like the look of this one personally. I would pass on this. And you can see that it's almost like the clay-like pieces that have been put around the stem, and there's a repair on the back as well. So let's return and continue with our look. Classic style from United States on Etsy. Not too bad. Now, always remember too, when you're looking at these pieces, like we are zooming in with the utmost degree. These pieces are generally pretty small, so the details that you're seeing will not be as evident, but it's always better to know before you buy. So let's take a look at these cufflinks. This one is $70 Canadian, and the seller is Dealer94. they look like they're relatively well made, and cufflinks do lend themselves very well to being repurposed. So if you don't want them as cufflinks, you could probably transform these fairly easily into earrings or perhaps a pendant or even a ring. So those could be options for you. And these are sterling Pietra Dura cufflinks at $70 Canadian. Not too bad. They're saying vintage 1940s. I agree. That sounds about right. So again, the seller is dealer 94 on this one. All right, we are going to do just a couple more look-sees, and then I am going to tell you what is coming up next on the channel, and we will call it a day. Let's take a look at this one. So this one is on eBay, and it is 115 Canadian dollars or 85 US dollars, which is not a bad price at all, but it does have a little bit of damage. So let's take a look front and back. We are going to start with the back. It looks like this is built as a locket, and it will allow you to potentially put either a painting or hair work back there if you so desire. But this is what I want to call your attention to. So there is a small crack. It is not uncommon to see these. The pricing on this is actually very reasonable. So I think that they've priced it appropriately for sure. Not bad at all. Dempsey and Baxter is the seller, 99.8% positive with 21,000 sales. I do think that they're making every effort to make sure that you know about the small issue on this. And it is just bigger than the size of a quarter. So personally, I think this one's stable and I would wear it. I do think that it is quite nice. I'm going to scroll down and see if they tell us anything about the back covering. The opening might have had a glass covering, but it does not. Okay, so there's one thing, and they do mention the one line of the cracks as found. 1 5/8 inches, 1 1/4. Definitely wearable. The price is not terrible. And we are going to go back to gem.app. Fruit, you don't see a lot of that. Here's another Carlsbad example. And that one was a pendant. All right, these again are among my favorites. So I am going to click through on this one. This one's available on eBay. And this is what I mean by the tone in goldstone, especially in the Victorian goldstone, where it's not quite even, but that really adds to the beauty of it. So let's take a look at this one and get in close so I can tell you what I mean. So do you see how it's a little bit darker at the top and then it's like a brighter, more shimmery at the bottom? Gets a little bit darker again. This to me is the property that I really love in antique goldstone or aventurine. You can see the height on this as well. And it's well inlaid. The back also shows you, that very handmade goldstone recipe where it's not super uniform like the pieces that you see today. It is a small piece, $85, but they are accepting offers and no chips, no cracks. Some of the gold plating is worn. You may be able to get this for a better deal if you're interested. But very beautiful. All right, I am coming back if I can find my tab. Here we are to say hello, to catch up on comments, and tell you what is coming up. Oh, Deborah, thank you so much. You are so sweet. I really, really appreciate your kindness. All right. Yes, Jewelry Jam, I agree. It does look like a good amount of silver. Yes, Deborah, I'm so generous. Thank you. All right. I think I'm caught up on the chat. Daisy, thank you so much as well. Oh, so generous. You all have made my day. Thank you. It is such a pleasure to be here with you, and I am excited every time I have the privilege of getting to do one of these Sunday brunches. I'm excited about a few of the topics that I'm preparing to cover, but our next topic, which is going to be on the 18th, is going to be on jewelry of love. And what does that mean? Well, the engagement ring as we know it today was not something that existed even a couple hundred years ago. So jewelry was actually used very differently to show love and to tell stories of love. So we're going to take a look at some of the more uncommon examples and unknown stories of how jewelry was used in the past. And I'm also going to tell you the story of Wallis Simpson. And her royal and then not so royal marriage, because that is quite an incredible love story. And the reason that we're focusing on this is just because it is so close to Valentine's Day. I want to cover heart jewelry, the witch's heart, why heart motifs even mean love, and so much more. So I am excited to cover that with all of you. It's going to be a lot of fun. And as always, if there's something that you want to see, don't hesitate to let me know. We do have Imperial Russian in the works and Georgian jewelry that is going to be coming up very soon as well. So stay tuned. I am excited. And I have a lot of requests that are coming in. So there's been a request for turquoise and quite a few other things. So keep them coming. Yes, we can definitely talk about the Mizpah brooch and what Mizpah means as well. I think I'll probably touch on that next week. I actually have one that is coming from a local seller in the mail, and I'll tell you that story too. Thank you so much, everybody. I hope you take care and are doing well. Have wonderful, healthy, prosperous, successful weeks ahead, and I will see you on February 18th with a few videos here and then in between. Take care, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here. Bye-bye.